Picture this. It's a quiet Tuesday morning in a small American town. The bakery on Main Street opens at 6 a.m. The local hospital fills its morning shift. The meatpacking plant starts its machines. The school buses roll out on time. Now imagine, what if every single immigrant in that town just disappeared overnight? The bakery closes. The hospital is short-staffed. The plant shuts down. The school has half its students gone. The whole town, silent. That's not a nightmare. For hundreds of American small towns, that is the reality they are quietly trying never to face. Today, we are going behind the headlines and the political debates to look at the real numbers, the real stories, and the real towns. Towns that most Americans have never heard of, that are secretly surviving because of immigrants. These aren't big cities. These are the heartland communities, the Rust Belt neighborhoods, the farming towns and factory towns that were slowly dying until someone arrived and gave them a second chance. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see this country. Number 10. Utica, New York. Let's start in upstate New York, a city called Utica. If you've never heard of Utica, you're not alone. For most of the 20th century, Utica was known for its textile mills and manufacturing plants. At its peak, it was a proud, hard-working industrial city. But then the factories closed. One by one, through the 1970s and 1980s, the jobs dried up. People packed their bags and left. Entire neighborhoods were abandoned. Houses sat empty. Storefronts went dark. By the 1990s, Utica was in serious trouble. The population had collapsed. The city's tax base was shrinking. Local government was running out of money to fix the roads, fund the schools, or keep the lights on. Then something unexpected happened. Refugees began arriving from Bosnia, from Somalia, from Myanmar, from Vietnam, and from over 40 countries in all. They came through resettlement programs, and they came to Utica because it was affordable and because resettlement agencies were there to receive them. These newcomers did something remarkable. They moved into the abandoned neighborhoods. They bought the empty houses, houses that no one else wanted, and they fixed them up. They opened small businesses, restaurants, markets, tailoring shops. They filled the jobs in healthcare and manufacturing that had gone begging for years. Today, immigrants make up 22% of Utica's population. The city has actually grown, rising to over 63,000 people by 2023. A study found that while refugees cost the city money in their early years, within 23 years they completely eliminate those fiscal costs and become net contributors to the tax base. The Mohawk Valley Resource Center for Refugees helps 350 to 430 refugees find jobs every single year, with more than 60 local employers participating. Utica didn't just survive, it came back to life because people came who were willing to work, willing to invest, and willing to call it home. Number 9. Austin, Minnesota. Now let's travel to the great state of Minnesota, to a small town called Austin, population just over 26,000. Austin was built on meat. The Hormel Foods Corporation, maker of Spam, was founded there in 1891, and for generations the town's identity was tied directly to that meatpacking industry. At its peak in 1960, Austin had 28,000 residents. Then the slowdowns came. Factories downsized. Young people left for bigger cities. By 1990, the population had slid to just 21,900. The meatpacking industry, though still running, was struggling to find enough workers. It was hard, physical, often dangerous work, and fewer locals wanted it. Then immigrants arrived, from Mexico, from Central America, from Somalia, and other parts of East Africa, drawn by the available jobs. They came willing to do work that others had turned away from, and they didn't just fill the factory floors, they transformed the whole community. By 2023, Austin's population had recovered to 26,160, a 20% rebound from its low point. The foreign-born share of the population tripled. New restaurants opened. New cultural events filled the calendar. Schools that had been quietly shrinking started growing again. The city launched the Austin Area Minority Business Project, which has helped more than 85 immigrant-owned businesses open since 2016. Salons, grocery stores, clothing shops, and restaurants. Those businesses create jobs, generate tax revenue, and add real vitality to a downtown that had been fading. Austin, Minnesota, once quietly declining, is today a case study in how immigration, paired with intentional community support, can save a small town. If this video is opening your eyes, please take a moment right now and hit that subscribe button below. We dig deep into the real stories behind American life, stories the mainstream media often overlooks. Subscribe so you never miss one. Number 8. Lewiston, Maine. Here is a story that surprised even the people living through it. Lewiston, Maine is an old mill town in the western part of the state. Like so many New England towns, it was built on the textile industry, Franco-American workers running the looms for generations. When the mills closed in the latter half of the 20th century, Lewiston lost its economic anchor. The population declined, poverty rose. Lewiston was quietly being forgotten. Then, starting around 2001, Somali refugees began arriving, first in small numbers, then in larger waves. They were relocating from bigger cities like Atlanta, where the cost of living had become too high, drawn to Lewiston by affordable housing and a tight-knit community that had already formed. The reaction was not always warm. In 2002, Lewiston's mayor wrote a public letter asking Somali refugees to stop coming, citing strain on city services. It made national headlines. It was a difficult, painful moment, but the story didn't end there. The Somali community stayed. They opened businesses. Over 50 Somali-owned businesses operate in Lewiston today, including restaurants, grocery stores, and professional services. They revitalized entire blocks of downtown. Their children filled classrooms that had been shrinking for years. Lewiston's public schools became some of the most diverse in all of New England. Today, the Somali and African immigrant community is credited by local economists and city officials as a critical reason Lewiston's downtown is alive. Real estate values improved. New investment followed. A town that was being written off found new purpose because people chose to make it their home. Number 7. Garden City, Kansas. In the flat, wide-open plains of southwest Kansas sits Garden City, a community that, on the surface, looks like the quintessential American heartland town. But step inside and you'll find one of the most diverse small cities in the entire country. Garden City's transformation began decades ago, tied directly to the meatpacking industry. IBP and then Tyson Foods operate one of the largest beef processing plants in the United States, right there in Garden City. That plant needs thousands of workers, and for many years it has pulled workers from across the globe, from Mexico, from Southeast Asia, from Somalia, from Ethiopia, from Myanmar. Today, Garden City has a population of around 28,000, and an extraordinary percentage of its residents are foreign-born or first-generation Americans. The public school system teaches children who speak dozens of different languages. The town's churches hold services in multiple languages. The restaurants serve food from cultures that most small Kansas towns have never encountered. Without immigration, Garden City's meatpacking economy, which is the backbone of the entire region's agricultural economy, simply could not function. The plant cannot recruit enough domestic workers for the difficult, physically demanding processing work. The immigrants who fill those roles are not taking jobs from local residents. They are doing jobs that keep the entire food supply chain moving, jobs that feed the rest of America. Garden City is proof that in the American heartland, where conservative values run deep, the economic reality of immigration is undeniable. The town lives and breathes because of its immigrant workforce. Number 6. Schuyler, Nebraska. Nebraska might not be the first state you think of when you hear the word immigration. But drive about an hour west of Omaha and you'll find the small town of Schuyler, population roughly 6,500, and a story that is quietly being told across the entire state. Schuyler, like many small Nebraska towns, once faced a slow demographic collapse. Young people were leaving for Lincoln and Omaha. The older population was aging out. Businesses on Main Street were closing. The school enrollment was dropping. Then a meatpacking plant opened, and Hispanic workers, primarily from Mexico and Central America, began arriving. Over time, Schuyler's Hispanic population grew to become the majority of the town. Today, the town is majority Hispanic, and that population shift has fundamentally changed Schuyler's trajectory. New businesses opened to serve the growing community. The school enrollment stabilized and grew. Local government had more taxpayers to draw revenue from. The community developed new cultural institutions, festivals, churches, soccer leagues, that gave Schuyler a vibrant identity it had been losing. A broader study of Nebraska found that of 21 counties outside Omaha and Lincoln that grew between 2010 and 2020, 16 of them owed that growth entirely to residents of color, primarily Hispanic immigrants and their families. Schuyler is one of the clearest examples of that pattern. Without immigration, Schuyler would likely be another quiet footnote in the story of rural depopulation. Number 5. Worthington, Minnesota. Minnesota appears on our list a second time because it deserves to. Worthington is a small city in the far southwest corner of Minnesota, near the Iowa and South Dakota borders. Like many towns in that part of the country, it was built around agriculture and food processing. The JBS pork processing plant employs thousands of people, and for decades it has drawn workers from wherever it can find them. Worthington today is one of the most diverse small towns in America. Its population of roughly 13,000 includes immigrants from Mexico, Ecuador, Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, and many other countries. More than 40 languages are spoken within the Worthington School District. The town's diversity did not happen by accident. It happened because the local economy needed workers, and immigrants answered that need. The impact goes well beyond the plant floor. Immigrant entrepreneurs have opened dozens of small businesses, from international grocery stores to restaurants serving authentic cuisine from across the world. These businesses attract visitors from surrounding communities, bringing additional economic activity into town. Worthington's local leaders have recognized publicly that the city's economic health depends on its immigrant population. When national immigration policy tightens, Worthington's businesses, and its schools, and its tax base feel the pressure immediately. It is one of the clearest, most tangible examples anywhere in the United States of a small town whose survival is directly tied to whether immigrants choose to stay. We are halfway through our list, and I hope you're seeing a pattern here. These towns are not news stories. They are real communities, with real people, real struggles, and real successes. If you are finding value in this video, please subscribe right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps us keep bringing you stories like this one. Number 4. Dodge City, Kansas. The name Dodge City carries the weight of American mythology. This is the town of Wyatt Earp, the gunfight at the OK Corral, Boot Hill, Long Branch Saloon. In the cultural imagination of older Americans, Dodge City is the very symbol of the Wild West. But today's Dodge City tells a very different story, and it is just as compelling as anything from the 1800s. Dodge City, population around 28,000, is home to one of the largest beef packing plants in the entire United States, operated by Cargill. That plant employs thousands of workers and processes cattle from across the southern Great Plains, and the workforce that keeps it running is overwhelmingly immigrant, primarily from Mexico, Central America, and Southeast Asia. More than 60% of Dodge City's public school students are Hispanic. The town's businesses reflect its demographics. Mexican bakeries, taquerias, quinceañera dress shops, and Latin music stores line streets not far from where cowboys once walked. The economic facts are blunt. Without its immigrant workforce, Cargill's Dodge City plant could not operate. Without that plant, Dodge City's entire economy collapses. The cattle ranchers, the feed suppliers, the trucking companies, the local retailers, all of it depends on that plant running. And that plant runs because immigrants show up to do the work. Dodge City is living proof that the most iconic American towns are being written into a new chapter, one where the cowboy spirit of hard work and resilience lives on in people who came from very far away. Number 3. Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio has had a hard few decades. Once a powerhouse of American manufacturing, home to NCR, General Motors, and the birthplace of aviation, Dayton has been hit hard by deindustrialization, population loss, and the opioid crisis. At its worst, Dayton was making national headlines for all the wrong reasons. But quietly, Dayton has been engineering a comeback, and immigrants are a central part of that story. Since the early 2000s, Dayton's leaders made a deliberate decision to welcome immigrants. In 2011, the city launched its Welcome Dayton initiative, a nationally recognized plan to make the city a more welcoming place for newcomers. The plan included everything from police training to government services offered in multiple languages to support for immigrant entrepreneurs. The results have been measurable. Areas of Dayton that had seen significant population loss and housing abandonment began stabilizing as immigrant families moved in, purchased homes, and opened businesses. New restaurants, markets, and community organizations brought life back to neighborhoods that had been quiet for years. Urban policy researchers cited Dayton, along with Utica, as one of the clearest American examples of a mid-sized city successfully using immigrant integration as a revitalization strategy. For a city that had been through so much pain, the welcome extended to newcomers became one of its most important economic decisions. Number 2. Fayetteville, Springdale, Arkansas. The northwest corner of Arkansas might surprise you. This is not a place most people associate with immigration or cultural diversity. But the Fayetteville-Springdale-Rogers metro area, home to Walmart's global headquarters, has become one of the top-performing regions in the entire country for immigrant integration and economic well-being. Walmart's presence draws global business, suppliers, and professionals from across the world. But beyond the corporate campus, the broader regional economy, poultry processing, construction, agriculture, and retail has drawn hundreds of thousands of Hispanic workers over the past 3 decades. Cities like Springdale, Rogers, and Lowell have been transformed. The Hispanic population in this region has grown from a small fraction to a substantial share of the total, with Hispanic-owned businesses, Spanish-language media, and cultural institutions now woven into the fabric of everyday life. The George W. Bush Institute's economic research ranked this region among the very top performers nationally for immigrant well-being and economic integration. The immigrant community here isn't surviving on the margins. They are homeowners, business owners, and community leaders helping drive one of the fastest-growing regional economies in the South. For a region rooted in traditional Southern and rural American culture, Northwest Arkansas has quietly become a model of how immigration and economic growth can go hand in hand. Number 1, Waterloo, Iowa. And at number 1, we arrive in Waterloo, Iowa, a city whose story captures everything we've talked about today and then some. Waterloo sits in north-central Iowa along the Cedar River. For most of the 20th century, it was a blue-collar industrial city, home to John Deere tractor manufacturing and meatpacking plants. At its peak, Waterloo was a prosperous, growing city. Then the plant closures came. The John Deere workforce shrank. The meatpacking industry restructured. Waterloo's population fell from over 75,000 in its heyday to under 68,000 in recent decades. But Waterloo has a long history with immigration that stretches back generations. African Americans came from the South during the Great Migration. Latinos arrived in the 1980s and 1990s for meatpacking work. And in recent years, refugees from Myanmar, Sudan, the Congo, Eritrea, and other countries have resettled in the city. Today, Waterloo is one of the most racially and ethnically diverse mid-sized cities in Iowa. Its immigrant and refugee communities fill critical roles in healthcare, manufacturing, and the service economy. Waterloo's public school system serves children speaking dozens of languages. The city has not solved all its problems. No city on this list has, but the data tells a clear story. Waterloo's population has been stabilized by immigration. Its tax base has been supported by immigrant workers and business owners. Its neighborhoods have been revitalized by families who bought homes and stayed. When national debates rage about immigration, Waterloo, Iowa is exactly the kind of place that rarely gets mentioned, but should be at the center of the conversation. So there you have it, 10 American small towns, from the plains of Kansas to the mills of Maine, from the cornfields of Iowa to the mountains of New York, all quietly surviving and in many cases thriving, because immigrants chose to come, to work, to invest, and to stay. These towns are not political talking points. They are real places, with real families, real struggles, and real futures. And here is what the data makes absolutely clear. In town after town, across every region of this country, when immigrants arrive and are welcomed, schools stabilize, businesses open, neighborhoods recover, and populations grow. When they are driven away, towns shrink, plants close, and the lights on Main Street go dark. That is not opinion. That is what the census numbers show, year after year. Now I want to hear from you. Did any of these towns surprise you? Is there a town in your area that belongs on this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this video gave you something to think about, please do 3 things for me right now. 1, hit that subscribe button. We work hard to bring you stories like this one, grounded in real data and real people. 2, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Agree, disagree. All perspectives are welcome here. 3, share this video. Send it to a friend, a family member, someone you know who loves American history, American communities, and the real story of this country. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.